Announced a 54-player preliminary squad for Afcon 2025. Namhlanje, he will reveal that final 25 that will fly the South African flag high out in Morocco. Coach Hugo Bruce joining us virtually from Belgium at the moment. This before jetting off to Washington, D.C. in America for the FIFA World Cup draw, and then coming back to South Africa on Sunday evening to start the preparations for the Afcon tournament. And of course, SABC will be bringing you all the action on SABC2 starting all the way from the 21st of December until the 18th of January. So certainly exciting times ahead for Africa. Coach Hugo Bruce, I want to touch on with you now before we get into the reveal. When you look at the 25 that you've selected, how much would you say injuries as well as late fitness updates of certain players have affected your final 25? Because we know there's some sort of consistency we've seen in terms of the players you've selected in the past, and some were not getting as much game time with their various clubs and others were just coming back from injury.
Yes, it was also a problem because there were some players who came back from injury, who didn't play the last 2 months either. So it was for me impossible to take those players with, because we don't have the time to make them for 100% ready to play an Afcon. At the other side, I looked also to the future. So I think in those 25 players, there are some young players also, because we have to look at the future little by little. We have good young teams like U17, U20. So we will try also in the future, in the next months, to use them and to give them the experience of to be with us, to be with Bafana, and to train with us. And yeah, for the rest, I think the most important thing is also consistency. There is a number of players who are already a long time with us, and that means also that we don't have to tell them again what we want, how we work, what we want in the game. So that makes the work a little bit more easy.
And of course, as you can see there in those live pictures of South Africa in that encounter against Congo, a very dominant 5-0 victory there for you, Coach Hugo Bruce, against the Congo side that you then later came back and played out to a 1-1 draw. Coach, I understand you speaking about the young players that you want to start introducing into the fold for this Bafana side. Is that now specifically looking at building for 2026? And I know my colleague Mazola may want to add a thing or two here.
Yeah, not only at 2026, also later. I think little by little we got players that are at the end of the 20s, so near 30s. So that means that in the next years we have to replace them, and this is something we have to take in account also, that we don't do it too quick. So, and therefore again we have a few young players with us, so we started now to do that, and we will try to do that in the next month also, so that we don't have a surprise that suddenly we have a team of all players of 30 and more. This is something you have to be careful.
Indeed, but I can tell you it's exciting times ahead. I must say to our viewers at home, you will note there is a little bit of a delay between ourselves and Coach Hugo Bruce. That is because we are connecting virtually to the coach who is in Belgium at the moment ahead of heading out to the FIFA World Cup draw on Friday. Mazola?
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to find out, obviously you played so many qualifiers like we were saying earlier in the World Cup, and specifically now with the Africa Cup of Nations getting to Morocco. How different do you think the teams that you've drawn in the group, I'm talking specifically about Egypt, Angola and Zimbabwe, how different is it going to be out in Marrakesh when you compare the games that you've played? Because African football as a whole is improving and is growing, the gap is not as wide as it used to be?
There will not be so many changes. We have to take in account also that there can be injuries. Players maybe are out of shape. Don't play anymore with their team. So this is something I can't control. This is something that happened, and I will have to deal with it when it happened. So at the other side, I don't think that for the World Cup in 7 months, that this team will change in let's say 8, 9, 10 places. Certainly not. Certainly not. But again, little by little, we have to look also to the future, and maybe for a World Cup again, we can put some other younger players, 1 or 2, to have that experience also of that World Cup, and that will help us a lot after the World Cup to change little by little players who are maybe, let's say, too old at that moment.
Coach Hugo Bruce, of course, just giving us some insights in terms of the selection and the thinking process coming into the specific squad announcement, where he has selected 25 players from the 54 preliminary squad that was handed out. Coach, let's speak more about when you get to Morocco then. You look at your group, you look at Group B, you look at the likes of Angola, which is our opening game. We then come up against the 7-time champions of the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt on the 26th. And on the 29th, we end off our group stages against Zimbabwe. Speak to me about how you're feeling about first to third in terms of those competitors that will be coming up against in the group.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's very important to win your first game. We saw it the previous Afcon. We lost our first game and against Mali, and from that moment, you are with the back to the wall, because you can't lose the second game. So that means when you win your first game, you made already a big step to survive the group stages, and then you have Egypt. What is normally the team who can be first in our group. It's a very good team, very experienced team. So that means that, therefore, again, it's very important that we win our first game against Angola. Angola is a technical team, good playing football. But what I saw till now already from Angola, I think there are some possibilities for us to win that game. And then the third game again, Zimbabwe again. It's the 4th time, I think. 2 times qualifiers Afcon, 2 times qualifiers for a World Cup that we play against Zimbabwe. For me, it's every time a surprise, and not a surprise that Zimbabwe is there. So we know that last game will be a tough game. We saw it a few months ago when we played against Zimbabwe for qualifiers for World Cup. At the moment, they don't have anything to win or to lose. They play like lions against us, and they want to win against us. So it will not be different in Afcon next or in 2-3 weeks. So that means again that the first 2 games will be very important for us. Winning the first, and then not losing against Egypt. And if we can achieve that, I think we can survive the group stages also. Something we have to. Let me be clear. We have to survive the the group stages. Certainly knowing that after qualifying for a World Cup, we were 3rd bronze medal the last Afcon. So we can't afford ourselves not to survive the group stages.
And I mean, we speak about, Coach, just then that pressure of coming up into the group stage of this competition, being a team that in the last Afcon out in Cote d'Ivoire won a bronze medal. Speak to me about just that pressure, not only from a tactical and technical team point of view, but also in terms of some of those players that are familiar faces that we will see as soon as we reveal the 25 from that squad that played out in Cote d'Ivoire.
You know, that is that is very important too. When you have players who know already what's going to happen, and that was for us the biggest surprise. Even I was there with Cameroon on an Afcon. You can tell the players, but they have to feel what it really is. So that's a big advantage we have now, that in this group of 25 players, there are a lot of players who have already an experience of Afcon. At the other side, you know, it's a tournament, and I said it already before, that every team is 150% motivated to play good on an Afcon. So the games are very intense, and you need also a little bit luck in certain moments, and we had that luck in certain games the previous Afcon, for example against Cape Verde, where we qualified for a semi-final, but if you see that game again, we could have lost that game. So you need also a little bit luck at a good moment. But luck, you can force it also, and I think that's also the case that in last Afcon there were games where we forced that luck. So let's do it again, I should say.
Coach Hugo Bruce speaking, it's about a little bit of luck. Sometimes it's about forcing that little bit of luck. But also when it comes to those 25 players, he will reveal as soon as we return from the break. It's just a nice mix of youth as well as experience, because the coach is looking at building as well a team for the future with the 2026 FIFA World Cup upon us. So it's going to be a very exciting reveal. I can tell you, there's one or two players that will be making their names seen on the squad list for the very, very first time. It is, of course, Coach Hugo Bruce's squad announcement through the SABC's collaboration with the South African Football Association. I know some of you are watching us online and you're saying selected by Coach Hugo Bruce and, of course, his trusted assistant coach, Helman Mkelele. This is now the team that will represent Ningizim Africa and fly our flag very high at Afcon 2025 in Morocco. But before that, ready for some action? Well, at 10Bet, you can play progressive jackpots, any game, any spin, any time, and it gives you a shot at winning. Play live dealer games, crash games, and much more. All you have to do is download the 10Bet app or visit 10bet.co.za to join in the fun today. And of course, we know that 10Bet is a proud sponsor of Bafana Bafana, one of the sponsors that allow this to happen. And of course, coming up on Friday is going to be the FIFA World Cup draw. This one will be taking place out in Washington, D.C. You can catch it live on SABC 3 at 6 p.m. That's something else that we are building up to as well as a nation, the FIFA World Cup. It's actually just so nice to be South African right now, Mazola. It's just no DNA, just that I say.
No, I told you. Papa Hugo has changed things around, turned things around. You and I would have been sitting at home, watching it from home, watching other teams, trying to figure out which teams that we're going to support during the Africa Cup of Nations and the World Cup. But with what the coach has done since he came in May 2021, I believe it was, and he's completely changed the game. Brought in young players, saw them grow. He was talking about maturity just now, and we are seeing it even with this 25-man squad. It speaks of building for the future. We know that Coach Hugo is not going to be there post-July 2026, but he's going to leave a legacy for his predecessor.
Indeed, and of course, we'll be bringing you all that action live on SABC Sport from the Africa Cup of Nations, where 24 countries will be competing to be crowned the kings of the African continent. Let's now bring you through to Coach Hugo Bruce. Coach, this is the moment the whole country's been waiting for. We now hand over to you to reveal your 25 players for Afcon 2025.
Okay, let's start. Goalkeepers, Ronwen Williams, Ricardo Goss, and Sifo Chain. Defenders, Kuliso Mudau, Nkonsinati Sibisi, Mbekezele Mbokazi, Aubrey Modiba, Tabang Matuludi, Siabonga Ngezana, Kulumani Ndamane, Samukelo Kabini, and Tylen Smith. Midfielders, Tebogo Mokoena, Talente Mbata, Batusi Obas, and Spehele Sitole. Strikers, Muhau Nkota, Elias Mokwana, Sifo Mbule, Rele Borile Mofokeng, Oswin Apolis, Tsepang Moremi, Chandre Campbell, Lyle Foster, and Evidence Magopa.
And ladies and gentlemen, those are the 25 players that will don the green and gold of South Africa at Afcon 2025 in Morocco, where South Africa has been drawn in Group B alongside Angola, Egypt, and our neighbours Zimbabwe. It's going to be a very, very exciting time. Let's take you through and confirm that squad for you one last time. We start with the goalkeepers, Ronwen Williams, Ricardo Goss, as well as Sipho Chain. Those are the three goalkeepers that will be going to Morocco 2025. When we move on into the defenders, we've got Khuliso Mudau, a man that has had 25 appearances for Iqembu Bafana Bafana, and we've seen him also find the back of the net on one occasion. We've got Tabang Matuludi from Polokwane City, Tylen Smith, the youngster that won the player of the tournament at the Under-20 Afcon. He's at Queen's Park Rangers. Nkosinati CBC of Orlando Pirates. He joins in on the defenders. Aubrey Mudiba, a man with 3 goals for Bafana Bafana, the Mamelodi Sundowns defender. Khulumani Ndamane, Siyabonga Ngezana, Samkelo Kabini, Mbekezeli Mbogazi. That wraps up the defenders in terms of this Bafana Bafana team. Moving on into the midfielders, we've got Tebogo Mokoena of Mamelodi Sundowns, Batusi Obas, also of Mamelodi Sundowns, and then Talente Mbata of Orlando Pirates. We've seen him find the back of the net, albeit in the dying stages sometimes when we're sitting at the edge of our seats. That wraps up the midfielders. And moving on into the forwards, we do have Oswin Apollos of Orlando Pirates, Mohawung Kota, the youngster that made his debut for Bafana just in June this year. We've got Tebang Moremi of Orlando Pirates, Evidence Mahopa of Orlando Pirates, Lyle Foster of Burnley FC, Sipho Mbule, the comeback kid in terms of this Bafana squad of Orlando Pirates, Elias Mokwana of Al Hazem, Chandre Campbell of Club Bruges, and last but certainly not least, we've got Captain Wama 2000 Relebohile Mofokeng, a youngster who will now still be looking to find his first goal for Bafana Bafana. Of course, Mazola, with that mishap that happened, the beautiful goal that he scored previously disallowed. Let's now get your thoughts then, Mazola. When you look at this 25-player squad from Coach Hugo Bruce, what are you thinking?
Excitement, first and foremost, mainly because of 2 players, Tylen Smith and Chandre Campbell. And I said earlier that I had heard murmurs that the coach wants to start looking into the future, give some young players tournament experience. I had no clue which of the young players he was going to go for, particularly because Tylen and Chandre haven't necessarily featured in this Bafana squad for some time. But he's brought them in, and I'd love to hear his thoughts on that as well. And Elias Mokwana as well. You know, when he moved to a different country, to a different league, he fell out of favor in terms of being a regular in the national team, but he makes the Afcon squad. So it will also be interesting to hear the coach's thoughts on why these particular players, specifically those names that I mentioned. And the biggest omission for me would have to be an Ikram Reyners as well. He's been scoring the goals, been in part of the campaign right through, but he misses out. Another key element that would be quite keen to hear the coach as well.
All right, Coach, perhaps then we can bring you into the conversation because I remember going into that last encounter that you played against Zambia, and you were just saying you pretty much already know what your Afcon squad is looking like. Bring us into this 25, and perhaps as Mazola speaks here and says more on Chandre Campbell, a Tylen Smith, because these are 2 players that we haven't really seen feature much. Well, Tylen at all for Bafana Bafana. But in terms of Ashandre Campbell, we've seen him being on your radar in the past. Speak to us about those youngsters, Coach, and how you're possibly seeing them contributing. And I can see here that those are the two that are on your standby list. Perhaps you can also just explain to us how that is going to work with these two players. Do they travel with the squad, or are they on standby wherever they may be in the world at the time?
I think the most important thing is first of all, those are two players who are very talentful. Thailand played the Afcon. It was a little bit surprising that Club Brugge didn't release Chandre to go with U20. But I think it's a great opportunity for those two players to adapt to a higher level. To see what's happening with Bafana Bafana, what's happening on the training. So they have a lot to learn now in the next weeks. And I took them, first of all, with for their quality, but also we don't have to count really on them to play games. Okay, if the opportunity is there, we can give them chances. But the most important thing is for them now to feel that experience, to be a Bafana player at the higher level they will be confronted with. And we can win time now with them to do that. So that's why I decided to take those two players with us now in Afcon. And also looking at the future, it can be maybe a little bit a more easier way for them to become a Bafana player.
Coach, I just wanted, before we relook at the squad again, I wanted to ask you maybe particularly on Ikram Reyners. He's been a goal scorer for both club and country. I know he had a medical issue that he had to pull out of the last Bafana squad. Could that have been the reason, or you had more options in that position as well?
No, I think when you saw the list of 54, so that means that you have more options. At the other side, this is something different than qualifiers. Qualifiers is a little bit a knockout system. You lose a game and maybe you can lose also your qualification. So you can't make so much experiment. So you have to look first. We need a result. So if I can come back again to Thailand and to Chandre, we have 23 players on which I will count for 100%. They are there to have the experience. So I can do that now because okay, we have a number of players who will play the games and they have just to learn. And I think this is a great opportunity for them to be there. For other positions, I couldn't do it, and that's the reason why they are here with us.
And Coach, perhaps just to re-emphasize, in terms of a Thailand Smith and a Ashandre Campbell, they travel with the team, but when would we possibly see their involvement? Would one of the 23 players that are submitted as part of your squad have to be injured or out of that team in order for a Thailand or a Ashandre to get an opportunity?
Well, you know, it's very, very dangerous and difficult to tell what is going to happen in the next weeks and in the next games. Sometimes you start with a team and you have to make changes for the second game because of injuries, but also because the player who played in that position, you were not happy with him for 100%. So there's sometimes also a tactical decision. The only thing I can say, I have 25 players. From those 25, there are 23 I count for 100% on them. And it was also in the past, sometimes the players who are on the bench are deciding a game, are deciding the match. And this is very important. That's why we had the bronze medal 2 years ago on Afcon, because on the bench there were also players who could decide a game. And this is the same thing now with the group we have now. Besides Thailand and Sandre, the other 23 players, I counting them from the first minute of the preparation till the last minute of the tournament. And this is very important, that I know if there is something wrong on the pitch, or if we have to change, that there are players who can make that change.
All right, Coach, we'll give a little bit of a breakdown now for our viewers at home, just in terms of those different departments. I think in terms of the goalkeeping department, it's pretty been stock standard in terms of just seeing a Ronwen Williams, a Sipho Chena, Ricardo Goss. Of course, in the preliminary, we did see more goalkeepers like the likes of your Darren Johnson. But when we move then into the defenders, Mazol, I'll let you start us off here in terms of who you're excited about and who you want to chat to Coach about.
Yeah, Coach, I see Thabang Mathuludi there. You've spoken. I know you're a coach that loves strength and power, and he's shown right through since he broke into the top flight at Polokwane City that he's strength and power, and one for the future, in my opinion. And if you look at the defensive makeup, it seems the coach has gone for versatility as well, because a Kabini there who will not only play as a left back, can tuck in and play as a left centre back as well. So you've got versatility. I suppose, Coach, that's exactly what you were going for in terms of making sure that you can plug the gap from your experience from that Côte d'Ivoire Africa Cup of Nations.
Yes, that's for sure, and it's what you are saying. Sometimes it's very important also to have players who can play on different positions. You never know what you have to do. You remember the last Afcon against Nigeria, we played with 3 central defenders. And I think it was a good tactic. So that means that you need those opportunities also. And therefore, when you make the choices, you think about that also. What happens if we have to play in a certain tactical concept? I can use this one. And therefore, we had before also, for example, Morena. But Apello was injured the last months. He didn't play so much with Sundown, so I couldn't take him with him. But Apello was a player who could play on the right side as the right defender, as a right winger. So this is also important to have those kind of players in your group, and this is also what we're looking after.
Right, so Coach Hugo Bruce there just giving us some insights, particularly when you're looking at the defenders that will be going into the Africa Cup of Nations. It's a total of 9. And also just touching on Thapelo Morena, because this is a player that coach has relied on so many occasions. Just the fact that he did suffer that injury, didn't have as much game time then, and virtually impossible for coach to pin him down in terms of just shortlisting him here for this final squad. We remind you once again, SABC will be bringing you all the action from the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. The man next to me will be there in Morocco, having the time of his life. When we return after the break, we take a look at the midfielders, not as many as we would have ordinarily seen, but when you look at the forwards, you see that a lot of those forwards double up as well in midfield. Once again, speaking to the versatility. Africa's biggest football showdown is upon us. It gets underway on the 21st of December and runs all the way through to the 18th of January. Now you can catch the 24 nations live. It's 52 games on SABC2 and also streaming on the SABC Plus app. And of course, SABC Radio will be bringing you all the action as well. SABC is, of course, the official broadcaster of Afcon 2025. It's game on everywhere. I am so excited. It's game on everywhere, every day. Coach Hugo Bruce, I know you've already announced your 25 players, but we do understand that there are 3 additional players that will be on standby. And I'm assuming this is on standby in South Africa, being Mduduzi Shabalala of Kaizer Chiefs, Ekrem Reyners of Mamelodi Sundowns, Mamelodi Sundowns, as well as Thabo Moloisane of Stellenbosch FC. Coach, speak to me about those additional 3 standby players that will be on standby here in South Africa.
Yes, it's very important that we have players who knows that if there is really something happening with an injury or whatever, that we can count on them. So we will ask them to stay in shape, to train, not as usual, but to keep in a good condition, because every moment there can happen something, and then we have to be prepared. So that's why I had also selected 3 players to stand by, and I don't want to take them with me, because then you are every day you are with 28 players on training session, and it's not so easy to work with it. So that's why I will ask them to stand by, and let's hope at one way that we don't need them, because that should mean that we have a problem. But at the other way, I hope for them maybe that there will be a possibility, an opportunity for them to come still come to Morocco.
All right, and that is the confirmation coming through from Coach Hugo Bruce that there will be 3 additional players on standby in South Africa. Mduduzi Shabalala of KZN Chiefs, Ekrem Reyners of Mamelodi Sundowns, as well as Thabo Brendan Moloisane of Stellenbosch FC. I guess Tati Kef, when we return after the break, we start wrapping up our broadcast, proudly brought to you by SABC Sports. Revealed his squad. I am joined by my colleague Mazola Mulife. Mazola, I know you want to speak to Coach about 2 players in particular. Yeah, particularly Captain Yama 2000 Relemo Fukeng. The coach had some concerns when he was out injured and not getting a lot of game time. And Elias Mukwana, who makes a return, having moved to a different league. I'm sure coach had some concerns, but they make your final squad, Coach Hugo Bruce.
Yes, we looked in the past months. We looked several games of Elias in El Azam, and he was playing very good. Even he didn't play really on his position, so they use him as a striker, as a central striker. But that means also for us that if we should need someone there, that we always can use Elias. At the other way, he is in very good shape. And, you know, I like wingers who are very quick. I like wingers who have an action. And I think Elias is someone like that. About Rele Bohile, you know, I like him as a player. He's a very good player. He's a very talented player. Had a few problems now the past week with an injury. So I was very happy to see him playing again with Pirates. And that's where I didn't doubt 1 second to take him with the selection.
Thank you so much, Coach, for that, because Rele Mofokeng said, I am confirming my name in that squad with the man of the match performance, because that's what we saw him do for Orlando Pirates in their last game. Coach Hugo Bruce, from the whole nation of South Africa, from SABC Sport, we just want to say thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I know you want to be spending this time with your family, but also thank you for what you've done for the South African nation, bringing back the love of football for South African football lovers, bringing back the faith, the hope and the belief in the national team. We know we don't go to tournaments anymore just to make up numbers, but we go to compete. And that's because you've put in the work, you alongside your technical team. So thank you so much for that, Coach. All the best, Coach. That is Coach Hugo Bruce, a very humble man, a man of many words, shoots from the hip every single time. He, of course, announces his 25-player squad for Afcon 2025. And, of course, SABC will be bringing you all 52 matches of the Africa Cup of Nations live on SABC2, as well as streaming on SABC+. So quite a lot to look forward to. Mazola, your final thoughts in terms of just looking at the 25, looking at the 3 on standby? I think holistically, the coach has gone for versatility. He can cover many areas. Like he said, I think he said it himself, it's a pity about Thapelo Morena, but
He's got Tabang Matuludi, who can play that similar role as well. So, you know, in that the games that we have, I think we're gonna see good players who can deliver when called on to do so.
And that's how we come to the end of our broadcast. SABC will be bringing you Afcon 2025. From myself, over Siwin Togaze Wangabo, Mazola, Super Journal,